Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
Hello and welcome to WrestleTalk's Best of 2017 So Far Awards. This is Luke Owen, I'm Ollie Davis, and today we're going to be counting down the top 5 wrestling matches of 2017 so far, as voted for by thousands of you. Thousands! Thank you so much for voting in our little poll, and we're going to be running through our personal top 5s at the end. Should we open things up with, oh my word, what a year for wrestling so far?
Yeah, it's not been bad, has it? Yeah, it's been pretty good.
I mean, by January already, where most of my personal top 5 matches are, I was like, everything's going to be downhill from here.
I mean, bearing in mind, within the first week of January, we got the world's first 6-star match.
Yeah. 4th of January, we've already had the best wrestling match of all time, according to Dave Meltzer.
So really, it was just it can only go up from here, right? Because that's your starting level. So yeah, I mean, it's been pretty good.
And then it was Royal Rumble, just a couple of weeks after. We had the UK tournament.
Yep.
Oh my, we've been spoiled.
What a time to be a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Wrestling popularity is, I'd arguably say at its lowest, but yet we're getting really great content around the world as well. The UK scene is really blowing up. Ring of Honor's doing great stuff. New Japan is really on fire. WWE is mostly fine. NXT is starting to find its feet again, which is really great. So what a time to be a wrestling fan.
Yeah, after a shaky 2016 for NXT.
I'd say it was very much a shaky end of 2016. I felt they had a really good middle and beginning. But by the end of it, after the Survivor Series TakeOver event, they had virtually no shows.
It's a great show that was.
But it was just the follow-up to that was just nothing but the Australia show and the Japan house shows. And
they just had recap shows for weeks
on end.
Really took the legs out.
They only taped 2 weeks worth of television in that period between Survivor Series and the Royal Rumble. Or it might have been 3 weeks or something. It was unreal.
If this is the first Wrestle Ramble style format show you've watched here on WrestleTalk, you probably already noticed we struggled to stick to the point because that was a bit rambly. It was
a little bit, yeah.
So should we dive in?
It's what the comments section wants.
It's what they asked for. Going by the comments, they want long episodes and both short episodes. They want rambling and to the point, and they want me to be really energetic and not shout.
Yes, absolutely,
So everybody is telling us constructive things.
Thank you to everyone on Twitter who's suggested that I dye my beard blonde, so I will look even more like Oliver Queen in Injustice 2.
Yeah, so the classic DC Green Arrow.
Absolutely.
None of this Stephen Amell. Does that amazing thing when he works out, doesn't he? When he hops the bar.
Oh, what a man he is.
And a wrestling fan.
And a pure wrestling fan. A wrestler in his own right. He had a match at SummerSlam. We've done it again.
We're doing it again.
Sorry.
Best wrestling match of 2017 so far, number 5, as voted for by you, the WrestleTalk, dare I say, universe. So number 5, a recent match, very recent, Bray Wyatt versus Samoa Joe versus Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns versus Finn Balor at Extreme Rules 2017. Just this month, earlier this month.
It was literally a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, very impressive that it's done this well.
Well, it was a great match. I think there's a few matches like this in the popular vote, and it's stuff that's happened relatively recently because it's fresh in people's minds. It is, because I don't think this is the 5th best match of the year, personally.
Not for me either. It's not in my top 5.
Well, I don't think it would be in my top 10 either.
No.
But people took to it. The actual match itself just told so many good stories.
Yeah.
I know you didn't like Samoa Joe and Bray Wyatt teaming up.
No, I did not.
But I thought that was a good story. Bray Wyatt got to do his crazy face a lot. You had the Shield collision, which they do every time they're in a multi-man match, but it still gets me going. 2 great spots in stereo almost when Seth Rollins jumped off the top rope to the commentator's desk and hit a frog splash on Bray Wyatt. Yep. And Roman Reigns speared Samoa Joe, who had Finn Balor in the Coquina clutch, through the barricade into the timekeeper area.
What an amazing moment that was.
Great.
And
boom.
Seth Rollins' leap was
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was a thing of beauty. He's quite the athletic man. And I really, really enjoyed the match. I thought it was really great. Like you, I don't think it would break into my top 10 of the year. Not even just so far, but certainly by the end of the year, it won't be in the top 10. But I thought it was an excellently worked match. My thing, actually, is I wish it got longer. I wish it had more time.
Really?
Yeah, because I think it got
about 25, 30 minutes.
I think it could have gone longer, like almost like the Survivor Series match
the
last year.
55-minute Survivor Series match.
Yeah, like I'm not saying it needs to go an hour, but I think when you've got a roster that's kind of, I want to say depleted, but when you've split your rosters in half, you haven't got all the talent in one place. And if you've got all 5 of your top guys in one match, that means your undercard is a little bit lessened. So I'd have actually preferred to maybe shorten down some of those other matches. I mean, I don't think the Alexa Bliss Bayley match could have been shortened any more than it already was. But just give that more time. And with a network, you've got freedom to do that. Because the show went about 2 hours 40 or 2 hours 50 or something like that. So they actually could have done with that extra 10 minutes just to really up it to another level.
Number 4 in the popular vote, cracking match this one. Authors of Pain versus DIY versus The Revival at NXT TakeOver Orlando. That was WrestleMania weekend, the night before WrestleMania 33.
Oh, yeah. And nothing topped it over that weekend, really. Nothing.
Well, Angles topped it. I would say the Hardy Boys return topped it. The Undertaker's retirement topped it.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of like work rate within a match, I think it was like in terms of WWE, that was the match of the weekend.
Of that weekend.
Absolutely, it was such a great match, and it told a wicked story as well. Like I think I mentioned on a previous Wrestle Ramble, I recently rewatched it, and it's the moments when the Revival and DIY were working together to do each other's finishing moves, because what a great feud that was last year. And this is like an awesome culmination of it all. Oh, it was so good. The crowd were going nuts.
Yeah.
Absolutely nuts. And like when they had the submission locked in, the double submission, and everyone was like, the crowd was like electric, and when they broke up that, and the crowd was nuclear, angry that they didn't tap out, and it actually is in my top 5.
Oh well, spoiler. We won't say where the ranking is.
It is.
I just so in any serialized form of storytelling, mainly comic books, I love it when you've got the babyface and the heel, say Batman and the Joker, just to use a non-wrestling example. Well, that would never happen, actually. Let's say Superman and Lex Luthor. They said Luger.
Superman I'm pretty sure I've seen that comic where Superman and Lex Luger team
probably
up.
happened. Like the Superman Muhammad Ali fight. So you have those two sworn bitter, storied rivals, and then a bigger force of evil. I don't know. Sinestro, or I'm thinking Brainiac, sure. Brainiac comes in, and they have to team up to take out the bigger evil, and that's what happened here.
Who did you want to say?
I wanted to say, I've forgotten his name. He's going to be the big villain of Justice League eventually.
Darkseid.
Darkseid, that's it. The DC Thanos.
Yes, DC Thanos.
Yeah. Oh, well, Marvel is actually Thanos is actually Marvel's Darkseid.
Don't get on
chronology
the
terms.
section. Yeah.
So and that happened. So my problem with this, in retrospect, I love the match. I think it's a great match. When I was watching it unfold, I was so into the Revival and DIY. Just in the story of that match, if you take out everything else, long-term booking, which actually has worked out better, I wanted them to beat Authors of Pain.
I was in the same boat, yeah.
And the crowd was taken out of it as soon as
DIY were eliminated. And in retrospect as well, it didn't really make much sense for DIY to go out first, because the Revival then went up to Raw the week after WrestleMania. So when they did the DIY Authors of Pain rematch at TakeOver Chicago, I think it probably would have had more heat to it had they been the ones who went through rather than Revival in the elimination. But that's just my personal take.
So I would have had the Authors of Pain get eliminated in that fantastic, at the end of the middle act of that match, and then DIY and Revival, the massive rivals, they go at it, because then that's really the Revival's send-off. Revival lose, and they go up to Raw, and then DIY can carry on with Authors of Pain, and that's when you get the later heel turn.
Absolutely, yeah, and it still would have worked as well, because then it actually would have fueled Ciampa's heel turn even further. It was like, we won the tag belts, and you lost them again. So yeah, it would have been great.
Number 3, another NXT TakeOver match. They do pull it out the bag. Tyler Bate versus Pete Dunne for the UK Championship.
I mean, I gushed over this when we did the TakeOver Chicago recap, but I mean, hot damn, what a match. It's pure wrestling gold. I absolutely loved it.
Wrestling gold.
It was wrestling gold. I just thought it was so damn good. Really, really great stuff. Like, there are no more words you can really say. It's just that, yeah, man, that match was so awesome. And you made a very interesting point there when you said NXT really can pull it out the bag. Because their TV's not always like the greatest show. You don't always need to tune in for every episode of NXT. But when it comes to those takeover shows, man alive, it's hard to think of a bad takeover.
That's what wrestling used to be in the territory days and the regional TV days. You'd have your weekly TV of just squash matches and promos because people would then pay money to see the pay-per-views.
Because then you got like your face champion destroying everyone, and you got your heel challenger destroying everyone, and then these forces collide on pay-per-view, and you're like, who's going to win out of this battle of the gargantuans? Rather now where it's 50-50 booking, and wins and losses don't matter.
Yeah, so this particular match was extraordinary. I woke up on the Sunday morning because, of course, we live in England, and we can watch these live, but we have to stay up very late.
And we're very old now.
Yeah, I don't do well when I stay up past 11 p.m. now.
Yeah,
I've realised.
I am in bed at 9.
Yeah, you're doing the 9 o'clock kick,
I like to be able to have a read before I go to sleep.
We're partiers!
we are YouTubers.
Oh,
I mean, this is how all YouTubers act, I believe. Yeah.
We live the high life. Sometimes I have a glass of wine with dinner. But don't worry, I top it off with an Ovaltine afterwards.
I was about to say,
off to sleep.
Often when I get into bed to do my read, I'll have a chamomile tea sat by next to me.
Perfect to send you off to snooze.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, I mean, my lady partner said to me just yesterday, "Oh, I fancy a chamomile tea." I was like, "It's 11 a.m. You don't want this now.
You want something with caffeine then?
You want this much later in the day, my love."
Funny story about chamomile. I've got a stigma with that word because at university I once saw it and I was like, "What's chamomile?" And everyone, I'd never seen it written down before.
Yeah.
And everyone, no one's ever let me live that down.
No, I'd imagine not. No.
Chamomile. But this, I've forgotten the point I was going to make. I woke up.
It's all about being UK.
I woke up in the morning and I read on Twitter, and Dave Meltzer had tweeted, "Just stop the show now, because nothing's going to top that." And I was like, "We're watching it with breakfast," and it was phenomenal.
He made a really great point on the subsequent Wrestling Observer Radio, where he was just like, I mean, these guys don't need development. They should be on the main roster.
Yeah.
They should be on
especially
Raw.
Pete Dunne.
Especially Pete Dunne. It's like, and he was then went on this sort of great tirade, and he makes a very good point of just like all the top people in NXT they're not developmental people. They're not people that they've been brought up through the system, with the exception of like the Authors of Pain. They're people who've learnt from ROH, Ring of Honor. They've travelled the world, Progress, ICW, sorry. You know, they're people who trained around the world, and now they're just here being awesome. So, which kind of goes against the WWE logic, which used to be, if you wrestled on the indies, it's because you weren't good enough to be in WWE, and then you have to go through the developmental system to then go up to the main roster. But like this show and this match in particular proved that that's really not the case. It's just they're awesome, and they had an awesome match.
Just one more thing. My favourite spot in the match, the airplane spin.
Yeah.
Like, he went so fast.
Not only that, but like, I mean, I'm not the kind of guy that sits there and be like, be safe, you know, don't take too many crazy bumps, think about your body long term. But that got the biggest reaction of the entire night, apart from the heel turn, obviously. But like, as an in-ring spot, it got the biggest reaction, and it was the safest spot in the entire world. Like, no one really took a bump. He just got a bit dizzy.
I do like it when he goes the other way to balance out the dizziness, but that's by the by. And number 2 is a match where two men probably nearly killed each other. Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada at Wrestle Kingdom 11.
Oh, what pronunciation.
Thank you very much. This is touted as the 6-star match rated by Dave Meltzer. One he believes is the best match in wrestling history. It's only number 2. It's only number 2 in 2017 so far.
I mean, you can't argue that it was a great match.
Yeah.
That was again 40 minutes.
45 minutes, yeah.
The beauty of that match is that it wasn't like finish a kick out. It was building to finishes. And that's kind of what I loved about it. It was not being able to hit each other's finishes and...
In the end sequence, there were like 5 Rainmakers on Okada, which is on Omega, which is Okada's finisher. Yeah. So he did kick out of that a lot.
But it was building up to the One-Winged Angel.
Yeah, so the One-Winged Angel, if you haven't seen it, is Omega's finisher.
It's Killian Dane's finisher.
Yeah, and So that's Kenny's finisher, but he never hit it, which is what like the great thing about this match is the story it didn't tell. What it left out is almost as effective because all those Rainmakers to Omega, not all of them were the full Rainmaker. It's like a weak stunner or just a slight rock bottom. So it made sense that Omega was kicking out so much, but then he never hit his finisher on Okada, and now you're like, if he could hit that, maybe it would have been over. And that's what's building to the rematch, which actually is probably happening as we record this right now at Dominion. That might be the new best match ever. So this could already be redundant.
If you said like he was building like to weak Rainmakers.
Yes.
That was harder to say than I thought it would be. It's a bit like for you WWF SmackDown fans on the PlayStation, it was the difference between a Max Stunner and a Stone Cold Stunner.
Sure, yeah, so just an incredible match. Just the length it went as well. It really felt like a war. It really felt like a proper main event. And just New Japan's style of presentation, like a sport. This was, because I wasn't a big New Japan guy, I just watched the things as they came up in the zeitgeist.
This turned you onto it, didn't it?
The whole show was phenomenal. And I was just... it's one of my favourite things in wrestling at the moment.
Yeah, it's really great. And again, that was like... actually, that match had a... scarily dangerous spot with the backdrop,
the dragon suplex off the top.
God, I completely forgot about that. But also more about the backdrop over the ropes, through the table, like that. I mean, talk about something that could go horribly wrong. Because if you crack your head on the ring apron, like over the top, if you mistime that, that's it.
Well, I imagine you have to put those sorts of things on the line to have
the
best match in the world.
Yeah.
So, number one, as voted for by you, you've probably realised it already because it hasn't come up yet. John Cena versus AJ Styles, Royal Rumble 2017. This was 3 weeks after Okada and Omega's match when everyone was going, well, they're not going to top that. And then, boom, Cena and Styles came out and had a damn fine match as well.
Damn fine match. I felt that it wasn't the time to take the title off of Styles. That's my main criticism I had about the match, but can't argue that work rate.
Yeah.
I mean, that's... And it's that thing of everyone... WWE just kept saying, like, AJ Styles, he's not a top guy. Well, back in sort of, like, when he was in his prime of, like, that 2006, 2008, 2009 era AJ Styles, when he was always having these great matches. And WWE just like, nah, he's not... He can't have a great WWE match. And then, lo and behold, he comes into the company and has had a stonking year of wrestling. Won the WWE Championship and is now like, I mean, what a great run he's had.
He's the face that's built. He's the face that SmackDown built.
He's the
person.
This is the house that AJ Styles
built.
That's
the right way round.
He's the champ that runs the camp. Amazingly, that phrase didn't get him under. He managed to get it over.
Well,
that's how good he is.
He started as a heel, so it's kind of it's a heel trait to be a bit goofy like that. It was the usual John Cena big match formula of
big move, kick out, big move, kick out.
But sometimes, like, there's a reason that's a formula, and because it works, and it's worked over time, and sometimes you get a bit tired of it. But these two, when they put it on at Rumble, and Rumble was a good show. The Rumble match itself was great until
the end.
The Kevin Owens Roman Reigns match was really good.
Oh, what a horrible bump Owens took. That big pile, that mountain of chairs. Oh, that Game of Thrones style chair monstrosity that you fell into. Oh, it was horrible.
But a deserving winner. So we'll quickly run through our top fives. So we're going to take it in turns. I'll go first. And number 5.
You are going to have some... Okay, so to peel behind the curtain a little bit, you watch so much more wrestling than I do.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to have probably more mainstream options, whereas you are going to have some real like undiscovered gems.
I've just seen
there.
that actually none of them are WWE.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So like I would heartily recommend that you check out every single match that this man is about to recommend, especially if, like me, you only really get to watch a lot of WWE because of a lack of time. So I can't wait to hear this list.
At the same time, please don't listen to these and go, oh, here he goes with the Japanese and the indie nonsense. What a bloody hipster.
Bloody Dave Meltzer over here.
Because
can't give WWE 5-star matches because it's not in Japan.
There is a style of wrestling that I very much enjoy right now, and WWE aren't doing it. So this is why these matches are on here. Actually, the first one is just actually the most WWE-like match on here in terms of it wasn't a crazy indie spot fest. Christopher Daniels beat Adam Cole at ROH's 15th anniversary show. It was an amazing story because Christopher Daniels had been with the company since day one. He wrestled for the ROH Championship in the main event of their first ever pay-per-view, all the way back in 2002. And this was the 15th anniversary show. Daniels had challenged for the title loads of times, but had never won it. And this was sort of his last chance, and they built it up as his last chance against Adam Cole. There was a great story with Christopher Daniels' best mate, Frankie Kazarian, who sided with Bullet Club shortly before the match. And you're like, oh no, now he's definitely going to lose. But the storytelling, like, it was overbooked, but you can do overbook sometimes. And it was just a perfect angle to end it. Real feel good, streamers in the ring, everyone's genuinely happy. It was the right story to tell.
Do you know what? There have been so many. Like I've watched most of the Ring of Honor show they did over WrestleMania weekend, and I keep getting.
It was a great show, yeah.
Every time there's a Ring of Honor pay-per-view, I keep thinking I need to find time to catch up on this. And then another one happens, and I'm like, well, damn! Now I'm like a few pay-per-views behind. I get really frustrated that I can't catch up with them all the time. But yeah, I'd love to be able to check that one out.
What's your number 5?
And my number 5 is actually from NXT TakeOver Chicago. It is Bobby Roode versus Hideo Itami. I'm a big believer in storytelling in the ring, but I'm also one of my biggest bugbears in WWE, especially on the main roster, is the lack of selling. And like when you watch a movie. And so, okay, a better example is like if it's not a better example. If you watch a movie and someone gets hurt like, during that, so like during the big fight sequence, if someone gets hurt and then they're a bit like, if they then just get up and just start fighting back again, you're like, oh, well, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Batman v Superman.
A great example of that, yeah. Like, and comic book movies kind of do this a lot as well. And because they don't sell their injuries and sell the attacks, the fights don't really mean as much. And I feel this happens to a lot of the main roster. Dean Ambrose in particular is awful for this. Like, someone will work over his leg, and he might hobble a little bit, but then when it comes to do running, he just jumps all over the joke. He'll climb up the top turnbuckle and he'll dive off and things like that. And I'm like, dude, like, sell your injuries. And this was a match that was built around selling their injuries and selling the things that were happening to the match. And I thought that both of them worked exceptionally well in selling that. Not only that, but I loved the storyline going into it of Hideo Itami has been here, since 2014, but his injuries has kept him back from reaching the pinnacle that he set out to do. Like his first promo when he came into NXT was like, I'm here to win the championship. And he's never got, because anytime he's got close, an injury has pulled him back. He was on the shelf for like 14 months or whatever. And the video package beforehand was just like this great story of like, I've been sat on the sidelines and I've watched Kevin Owens come and go. I've watched Sami Zayn come and go. I've watched Neville come and go. I've watched all these guys, Samoa Joe, Shinsuke Nakamura. They've all come in while I've been sat here waiting, and they've just gone on to bigger and better things. And I'm still here, and I haven't even achieved the one goal I set out to do. And not only that, but the match is leading now into a really interesting Itami heel turn.
Yeah.
So I loved the storytelling in the match, which is why I want to put it in number 5. I thought it was a really, really great match.
Solid recommendation.
Thank you.
This is my only indie one. This is from Rev Pro, Revolution Pro Wrestling, which I was at live, you see, in the York Hall in Bethnal Green, famous boxing venue. Zack Sabre Jr. beating Marty Scurll in a 45-minute stonker. Oh my God. And I had a lot of beer in me by this point. And it was the majority of the match was just Marty Scurll going, oh, chicken wing, and then not getting the chicken wing. Everything was incredible. I can't really remember a lot of the bits that happened. But every time, I never thought, oh, it should have finished there. Oh, it should have finished there. I was caught up in the moment. Everyone was in that building. And we were all we didn't want it to end, even at 40 minutes in when it did eventually end in quite a nice, sudden MMA fashion. They kept on going. Apparently, it's very similar to a PWG match that they did in the summer of the previous year. Dave Meltzer said they pretty much replicated that, but I hadn't seen it, and oh my word, it was good.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've heard. It's probably very difficult to put Marty Scurll and Zack Sabre Jr. in the ring and have a bad match. Yeah. But yeah, I'd heard the same thing that they kind of replicate what they did in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla last year. But I mean, if you're going to replicate brilliance, you may as well if you're going to replicate anything, replicate something that's awesome.
And being there live for it was real special.
And that's a great thing as well. Like I feel like sometimes wrestling live really. I think there was there was a Twitter back and forth quite recently that someone was hating on Goldust, and someone who watches Wrestle Ramble was kind of like backing up Goldust and saying like, "Oh no, he's really good," and this guy was like, "No, he's old, he can't really go anymore." And then he added me into the conversation by saying like, "Oh well, this is Luke Owen, saw him wrestle Braun Strowman last year, and it was the best match of the night."
Yeah, yeah.
And I agree, and I thought it was, and I thought Goldust in particular was awesome, and I'm a big supporter of Goldie. But at the same time, I was suddenly thinking like, oh, was it because I was there live? And it was the excitement because I was really into Braun at that time as well.
Yeah.
That was they'd just done the brand split, and he'd just got that awesome new music and that awesome new haircut, and I was like, oh, Braun's the man. Braun is the guy. And so maybe it was just like I was wrapped up in the live atmosphere moment.
It could well be. Could well be. So it's
your
number 4.
Sorry, it's my number 4. Well, we've already talked about it, which is Authors of Pain versus DIY versus Revival from NXT TakeOver Orlando. Despite the complaints I had in the previous discussion we were just having about the perhaps the ending probably wasn't what I wanted, and I think that it could have had a better ending, could have been booked better. However, those moments, because I watched, I was avoiding spoilers all day because I went round to my buddies to watch WrestleMania live. And we'd watched NXT just before WrestleMania was about to kick off. So I'd had a couple of drinks in me. I'd had some pizza. I was all riled up for wrestling. And I was on my feet. I was, oh my God. And I just thought some of those moments were just like some of my favorite moments in wrestling this year. And I was so into the DIY Revival feud that watching those two work together, it's exactly as you said, it was Superman and Lex Luthor, not Lex Luger.
I just keep on wanting to say Lex Luger.
Exactly. It was the Man of Steel and the Total Package working together. I loved it.
Number 3, also one we've already talked about, Omega versus Okada for me. The best match of all time. It's number 3 in my personal.
Yeah, my number 3 is Lesnar versus Goldberg from WrestleMania. Oh man, I mean
that's in my top 10 definitely.
Yeah, I mean probably about 6 minutes in length, but what they got in those 6 minutes, and it came at just the right time in the show as well because I was starting to flag a little bit. Did it come? It came before the Randy Bray match.
Yes, yeah, that was effectively what killed.
What a long show! Like it was, 7 hours of WrestleMania anyway. But I'd also, as I previously said, I'd also watched the NXT beforehand, and we'd watched the week's previous NXT. So I'd already been watching like nearly 12 hours of wrestling at this point in a row with no breaks. So I was kind of like, whew.
And it's all pretty similar on the WrestleMania show.
Oh, absolutely, on the WrestleMania show, yeah. Especially like that kickoff, the Dean Ambrose, Baron Corbin snorefest and things like that. So I was flagging a little bit, but that match brought me to life. And I don't know whether this was by design, but there was the moment when Lesnar, I think he'd hit him with the F5, and he just got up to celebrate, and then seemingly from nowhere, Lesnar, Goldberg, the camera was just focused on Lesnar. He turned around, poof, with a huge spear, and I literally like popped out of my seat, like, oh my God!
Oh yeah.
I appreciate that it's in your top 10, not your top 5, and you're right in the sense that as a work rate match, like if work rate is your thing and storytelling is your thing, then absolutely. But I popped so much in that match, and they got so much in that such short amount of time, and it just felt like a fight. Yeah, and that's why I loved it. It just felt like these two dudes hitting the holy hell out of each other. It's so great.
No, I think I did love it as much as you. I've seen a few more.
You've seen some
New Japan matches, yeah. It's phenomenal. I can't say as much.
Hipster.
So number 2 for me was not the Tyler Bate Pete Dunne match at Chicago. It was their first match in the UK Championship tournament back in January of the finals of that 2-night thing. There was a bigger story going into it, and nothing. My favourite wrestling memory from this year. Oh, actually, no. My number 1 has it. My second favourite wrestling memory of the year so far, spot-wise. Tyler Bates had his arm worked over all the match and attacked beforehand. Pete Dunne's got him in an arm lock. It's like, oh, is he going to tap? No, he uses the injured arm to power out. And as he's lifting up Pete Dunne, the entire crowd stand up around him.
What a moment.
It was brilliant. So, yeah, that's definitely number 2 for me.
And number 2 for me is, we've already talked about Omega versus Okada. I mean, it's hard to argue that that is one of the best matches this year. So, I mean, we've already said as much on that. So which leads you to your number 1.
Number 1.
What have you got, hipster boy?
Kazuchika Okada versus Minoru Suzuki from New Japan, New Beginning in Sapporo.
So this is the match with the now infamous injury, right?
Yes. Oh wait, no, that's Shibata.
Sorry, no, I do apologise.
Yeah.
How racist of me.
That was that was in my honourable mentions down there. That very unfortunate story that Shibata. Really probably can't ever wrestle again.
Stay safe, people.
Yeah. So this was in February. And the whole match was another 45 minute match long encounter. And it was the second match after Okada had beaten Omega in Wrestle Kingdom 11. And now he was against Suzuki, leader of Suzuki Gun. They just re-debuted the night after Wrestle Kingdom 11. And it's 40 minutes of Suzuki beating the crap out of Okada. And that's all it is. And Okada's just selling the leg. And everyone's like, this is my favourite moment of the year in wrestling. And Okada is just, he's been in this leg lock for minutes, which is ages. And Suzuki's just like manically, he's incredible, just manically like pulling on it. And the referee, Red Shoes, the biggest referee in New Japan, is just screaming at Okada, give up. You've got to give up now. Mm-hmm. And when that happened, I was like, "Oh no, this is serious." Okay. And you forget. I like it when I forget that I'm watching.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like a fake match. I was like, "Oh god, he's in trouble here."
Don't use the word fake.
Yeah, predetermined. and then Okada got to the ropes and it somehow battled on, and then he finally hit the Rainmaker and won and retained. It was more. That was closer to art for me. Mm-hmm. Like it was just this incredible execution of a concept of just beating someone to smithereens for 40 minutes and then them winning at the end, and somehow that all has a satisfying structure throughout.
Oh, I mean, it's a match that I really want to check out.
It's incredible.
Great stuff, man. I mean, my number 1, we've already talked about it, and I think this should come as no surprise if anyone's been watching the Wrestle Rambles since we first started this. But it is Pete Dunne versus Tyler Bate for the UK Championship from NXT Chicago.
Damn.
Because
maybe I've got to go back and rewatch that.
Oh man, I really think I appreciate that you do think the final night of the UK tournament, and I'm not saying that you're wrong, but for me, I thought that because I think it was they turned the crowds. Like the UK crowd was always going to be into that match, and I think that one of the reasons why I loved it is just how they turned that crowd into like the loudest that they would get, like almost were the entire night up until the Ciampa heel turn at the end. But they really worked that crowd, and they got that crowd into an absolute frenzy. I never thought I would see the day when a US crowd was chanting UK.
Yeah.
And it was down to those two dudes, and I thought they were absolutely stunning in the entire match. And it was what a great match.
You say I'm actually objectively wrong though, because everyone else has voted for that match, and no mention of their first encounter.
I was actually saying I'm surprised to see that Lesnar Goldberg wasn't in the fan poll top 5.
I think a lot of people took against that was for the title. I don't think we seem to be in the minority of loving that match as much as we do. Anyway, those are our top 5 of Everett. Your top 5, Luke's top 5, my top 5. We will be back tomorrow with, let me check because I've forgotten, who is the best wrestler of 2017 so far, and we've got 3 more categories to come after that. So this will run while I'm away in Glastonbury until Tuesday, where I will return. Very depleted and hungover. But in the meantime, click the videos that have just appeared over Luke's face to catch up with the latest Wrestle Ramble and WrestleTalk news. Subscribe to WrestleTalk and support WrestleTalk on Patreon. This has been Luke Owen, I've been Ollie Davis, and that was Awards.